Good afternoon. Well, Prime Minister of India yesterday made a very important remark for the country that India should become a global creative powerhouse. We are also standing in this very fascinating era of convergence of technology and creativity. I call it the era of creative engineering. When we are debating on the subject of how India can really leapfrog its creative capability and upskill its creative capability, no better than thinking about how the technology can be really harnessed towards that. So we thought about just yesterday, so how can we exemplify in real terms, what does it mean to be a creator in this new world? What does it mean to become a marketer in this new world? How do you bring the power of content and AI together? So everything that we are going to show is real. All this has been put together in the last 24 hours. So it's really work that you will see as a real work. It'll really show it to you. But more importantly, it's done by a creative engineering studio that we have set up just for that, with creators and engineers together working. A 5-member team, part-time, 24 hours. Yeah? So we'll show that to you in terms of how does it evolve. So the background that we took here was, we are in the state of Maharashtra. There is a sari that is get made in Aurangabad, Paithani. It's very popular, but still a very artisanal product. If you are a Paithani sari maker, how do you take this brand? How do you take this to other parts of the country or globally? And we want to talk about that scenario and show you how this can be done so quickly in this new world. Yeah. So first is, anytime when we launch a product or want to conceive that I want to do this, there is a research that you need to do to find out what's the market doing, what are consumers wanting. So that's our first step towards that. So Aparna, perhaps you can talk about how do you do research? How do you get consumer insights today with AI?
Yeah. So thanks, Kamal. If you look at it, right, whenever we say AI in marketing, what comes to our mind is content creation. A lot has been said about the space between yesterday and today. But what often gets missed out is what's the role that AI is playing in other parts of the marketing value chain. Particularly if you see the consumer insighting space, what the large brands do, how can the small brands also start doing it with the power of AI? Similarly, the post-conversion metrics optimization. How about having the power of large brands in the hands of small brands? So we'll talk first about the consumer insights piece. And if we really look at what has changed in the consumer insights space, what has GenAI really given us? If you look at what we were doing for insights so far, it would be NPSs, it would be surveys, it would be feedbacks coming from your customer from other forms. And most often, the unstructured data, which is textual or audio, goes unanalyzed. With generative AI, today you have the power to go into a YouTube, figure out what people are talking about your brand, what people are talking about your competition. You can scrape the data, understand, and get deep insights. That's the power of generative AI, and this gives us unique insights. Now, coming to the story that Kamal started, there is this Paithani weaver in rural Maharashtra. He wants to go and build his brand across India. So he wants to research on, okay, what does it feel like to be selling saris in Delhi and Chennai? A quick show of hands, how many of you have tried this deep research tool from ChatGPT? Yes. Good. And just imagine, at the click of a button, you get like a report which typically you would have hired business consultants, and it would have taken you a couple of months to get the kind of output that you get. Now let's see how our generative AI helps this artisan in rural Maharashtra. So if you see, he's asking for consumer insights from Chennai and Delhi. He also wants to promote a fashion product, which is a sari. He says that he wants to be promoting on Insta Reels and YouTube Shorts, and he's asking the deep research to give him guidance on what he should be doing for promoting. It's a 15-page report. It takes about 20 minutes to get this. We have obviously crunched it to put it here. But if you see, it talks about several things about what are other brands talking about, what is resonating. And in Chennai, it also says that people really appreciate behind the scene looks for handicrafts. People want to know about the craft. So we're going to take this insight, get inspiration from it, and build on it, and go and build the campaign for it.
So given that now that we picked this insight, let's now find out what's the big idea, right? From this insight, how do we create an idea? So let's now talk about next action. As to, okay, how do you ideate around this insight? Okay, and that idea then drives your whole journey of the customer and the campaign that you want to go after. So why don't we talk about Ashok?
Yeah, so this is one of the beautiful things about AI in general, right? If you see disruptive technologies, they tend to democratize and collapse value chains, right? So for the last 300 years, like we first democratize energy, then we democratize like trade, then things like compute and communications, but now we're democratizing knowledge, and that's really what it is, right? So what happens here is that you are actually able to take that research and then turn that into an actual campaign brief. And by the way, not just one, you could generate like hundreds of campaign briefs. Now, the difference between what you got from the deep research and this is essentially what the understanding that a marketer brings, saying that this is what I want in a campaign, right? I wanted to target specific things, say festival goers or tourists visiting Chennai, young urban professionals and so on, right? And the idea is that once you give the structure, it is able to look at thousands of bits of information and put that into a creative kind of campaign brief, targeting not just social media, but also ideas in the physical world, right? Like workshops that you could do, you could build an augmented reality app, and so on, right? So this entire thing is the fact that what would have taken an expensive hiring of an entire agency to come up with this entire brief is now available to most people, available to smaller brands, available to everyone, right? Even if it's not going to be at the level of the best thing that a human being can write, the very fact that you can write hundreds of them, and here's the beautiful thing, you can write hundreds of these, and then ask the AI to see which one's the best, and improve from each other.
And all the key elements that are required for the visualization is shown here. So here is now an example of taking those cues from the brief. Now you're given the command, and Ashok, perhaps you can take it forward. So how you curate this now?
So if you really look at it, right, what's happening here is that a lot of this exhibits something that we call AI native creativity. It's not the same as regular creativity, right? You have to break things down into smaller steps so that you get better and better output out of the AI, and then use a lot of sort of reinforcement learning to make sure that you get what you want. In this case, what we're saying is that you give me the script, but also describe the scene that I want in my actual campaign. Because then what happens is that the actual scene descriptions here can then go into the next step, which you can perhaps show, where it'll turn that into actual visuals, right? So if you go into the next one, you want to speak about the content creation briefly?
So here, for example, we took that brief, and as you could see on the screen, all the keywords, and it could pick up. And in this case, since we are doing very quickly, we looked at the public sources, say how can we showcase Pathani sari in this kind of a brief. So first is the product itself. So here is a video that got created on the product itself as to showcase how the product will look like if you were to put this out. Now remember, this is an inspiration. You could go back and then make a real production quality video out of it, or you can still do it with the way it is good enough for probably a social media campaign.
So interesting thing is that you're using the AI to generate the script, generate the visual descriptions, and in this particular case, using those visual descriptions to search through existing stock footage that you might have to match the one that best meets your campaign needs, and then generate something like this, right? But then I think the real disruptive thing probably comes.
So then the next is, you want to talk about the avatars?
Yeah, so this I think is really where this is going, right? If you're a small brand, we all know how expensive influencers can be. So the real trend now is that it's possible to start thinking about virtual influencers. And in fact, it's already a pretty big trend in many parts of the world in the West, and it's now starting to become hot in India as well. The fact that you can now actually create a virtual influencer, obviously wearing the sari that you have in mind, and actually use that, and you can try many things, and if one doesn't work, you can try another one. So again, I'm not saying everyone is going to try virtual influencers all the time, but you have this available as something that you could potentially think about for certain brands.
Yeah, and
so
while
on.
creating the influencer, we go back to the research.
Right.
It clearly said what is resonating with the audience. So
Right.
you create those personas of influencers, and you can create many in the virtual world to
Right.
match with the target audience that you
So
have.
that's the persona description that's come here.
Yeah.
You can see the background is festive, right? The temple culture background, so you could see that it is immediately picking that background, predicting that virtual persona.
And the fact is that for different regions of India, let's say your research actually told you that these kind of settings tend to work for this particular place. You don't need to do a photo shoot, right? You could literally just render out the virtual influencer in that setting, and then wearing the product that you want to wear, and then basically use that. Yeah.
Right. And the next task is, okay, after that you created, next is the campaign, right? You want to reach out to the audience, so you'll have to create email campaigns which has multimodal content, imagery, text, all the call to action, everything inside.
Yeah.
So how do you do that in the continuation of the same story? So let's talk about that as the next one.
Yeah. If you really look at large brands, right, we've been having sessions from Netflix and Spotify in the last 2 days. And these companies run thousands of experiments a day. And obviously a small brand cannot do this. But what if with AI, a small brand is also able to leverage the power of experimentation to be able to better personalize, better understand your target audience, and get better outcome and ROI for the money that you're spending on campaigns. Now let's just take an example of an email campaign that our Pythony Weaver will be doing. We've created 4 here, but you can imagine the number of variants, there is absolutely no limitation in the AI world. You can literally create hundreds of variants here. Now, we don't know, like as humans, between us here in the audience, what is really going to work. Each one of us will have our own judgment. But how to really test it out, that's where we test it out with real audience to really see who's clicking, what's the open rate looking like. And doing this kind of an analytics, there is a whole team of data scientists and statisticians who design these tests, analyze the results, and tell Netflix and Spotify of the world what they need to be doing. But today, with AI, this data analytics and analysis around it is coming to us at our fingertip.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, the beautiful thing about that is that it's... Sorry.
You could perhaps describe the campaign, right? The 2 campaigns that generated.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you look at it, we're talking about the campaign in 2 different languages. It's an email campaign. And we're trying to see what kind of CTA and open rates we should be targeting for different audiences in different zones. Chennai and Delhi is what we are targeting.
Tamil, Hindi, English, everything.
So one thing I wanted to add here is that this is also a very natural way of doing experiments, except that most people, smaller brands, don't have the means to try and do it. It's what we call evolutionary design, right? Meaning that you're trying 20 things or 100 or even 1,000 things, each of which cost money. But then you're seeing which of these designs, which of these patterns actually work because you get the data and analytics back. And then basically the winners, the survivors, basically survival of the fittest, and then you try the ones that actually work. And this sort of thing was historically available only to very, very large companies like Netflix and Spotify, but now available for everyone.
Yeah. So if you look at the dashboard, right, it has a very detailed analysis that anybody can understand. It's tracking across the funnel from the time that a customer opens, customer clicks, customer converts, and what is the revenue that you're getting. We've just shown for 2 regions here, Chennai and Delhi, but just imagine you can do it by location, by pin code, by demographic that you want to target to really understand what works as a variant, and then, as Ashok said, use the survival of fittest, whatever works best, and run your campaign on it. This is how you kind of try to maximize the whole outcome that you get for the bucks that you're spending on campaign.
So here is an example of this imagery. Now you're talking about websites. So now you've attracted customers to come to your website. Now how do you engage with them?
So there needs to be audio, I think. I'm not sure the audio came in the previous one. Yeah.
There should be an audio.
That's such a thoughtful gift, Reena. A Paithani sari is a beautiful choice for a wedding. Are you looking for something with traditional bridal colors like red or green? Or would you prefer something more contemporary? What kind of budget did you have in mind?
I don't have any color in mind. I need something that is exquisite and will be treasured by my friends.
I understand, Reena. A Paithani is certainly a treasure. Since you're open to colors, allow me to suggest a couple of options known for their exquisite craftsmanship and timeless appeal. Here's a peach paitani silk sari, known for its auspiciousness and grace. And here is a bottle green paitani silk sari with golden zari work that makes it perfect for a bride. A paitani can range from rupees 10,000 to 1 lakh, depending on zari purity and design complexity.
And this is all
Do
recorded
either
in
of these
real
catch your
time.
eye,
So
or
you're
would you like
speaking
to
and it's
explore other
responding.
styles?
And it's guiding you through a sales
I
process.
think I like the first one, the peach paithani sari.
So if you really see, right, the AI model understands Pythony sari. We didn't have to specifically train the model. Typically, the AI bots that we have been used to so far are menu-based bot. So you ask something, it keeps looking for choices and then narrows down. But if you see, this was having a free conversation. And the story that we had so far was a weaver from Aurangabad trying to launch products in Chennai and Delhi. But just imagine the power of this technology. It's not just going to be limited to Chennai and Delhi. Tomorrow he can launch Pythonese tools to Japan. He can use the same techniques, same tools, same ideas and take his products globally. And he can also create sales agents which are multilingual and are able to handle customers across the globe. This is the real power of AI that's coming up.
In fact, and actually, one thing I wanted to mention here is that I think we all grew up in the era where the difference between buying a sari in the physical world and buying a sari online, which is completely different things. Buying a sari in the real world is an emotion, although as a boy growing up, it was highly annoying having to wait for my mother and aunts to finish what they wanted to do. But they would ask questions like, show me more color, show me more variations, do you have something else, do you have something cheaper, right? That's the kind of experience that you could never get on an online portal. But now, what happens is that we now have AI voice that you can just speak to. And while you're speaking to it, you can speak to it for as long as you want. Unlike the sari shop guy, he's not going to get annoyed. We'll keep showing you all the things you want, and then eventually you can say, no, 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 I'm not interested in anything. That's fine. And then all of this data, the insights about where he showed more interest, are all going back into your analytics. Even if you're a small weaver from Aurangabad, you're getting insights that, you know what, in Japan, they preferred this particular shade. This is what, these are the patterns and motifs they tended to prefer. From real life conversations with somebody who might actually be only in a sari shop, right? So that's voice plus visual is a very, very natural medium of engagement, and that's starting to come now.
So now we're talking about a completely new signal to story flywheel. As you can see, the things that used to take weeks to months are talking about days. We produced this whole example to you, real recording, real system running in 24 hours. We could have tried Japanese too, but we were not sure whether we will understand what it produces, so we didn't dare on it, but we could potentially do the Japanese one too. But that's an impact you can bring. So now you can really free up your time and creative thinking time really to talk about creativity and not so much get caught up into the motions of completing the work and getting the work out in front of the consumers. And that's why I believe that in this new era, I think creativity and capability will get uplifted because the creators are really focusing on thinking and ideating and inspiring rather than really doing the mundane, so to speak, day-to-day stuff of making the idea real. Yeah, because a lot of assistance now machines are doing to make the ideas real. And that's really the big shift that India can make, we as a country can make, because we can uplift this capability suddenly with power that we have of technology. Yeah? So really, how do you exist in this new world, if this is the new ecosystem you want to operate in? Really, there are three key attributes as marketers or as content creators or as people who are focused on customer experience and so on. Aspiration. Right? So there is a key part of aspiration, experimentation, right? Second is imagination, so continue to imagine because you can make it real. In some ways, technology is going to liberate your imagination. Technology is not going to bring you down, it's going to actually help you lift your imagination. And then, of course, be very conversant and collaborative with AI because we could produce it as engineers. I won't claim myself to be a creator by any means. Then I'm sure the creator community can do it much, much better than what we could do as engineers together. So that's the power we wanted to bring to you again. Big thank you for listening. Something real that we could produce for all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.